If it's Friday night, say yeah. For it is Strictly Sports. Hello, friends. Anthony Flair here with you for another edition of Strictly Sports. Delighted to have you with us as always, alongside Girl MF Michael Fletcher. We apologize for the late start. We had to make sure everybody was ready to go. Um, One quick note: our third man, Michael Bullock, will not be with us this evening, and for very good reason. He and several of our closest friends are up at the University of Rhode Island right now, taking part in the 50th anniversary of the Special Olympics State Summer Games. And on behalf of all of us here at Strictly Sports, we wish Michael Bullock and the rest of our special friends over there the very best. And I know they're going to represent us. They'll represent the Strictly Sports family as only they can. So our thoughts and our prayers are with you, my friends. So represent like you always do. So, and I'm sure within the next couple of weeks we'll hear from Michael Bullock and we'll share his experiences like he always does. So, all right. So, with all that being said, let's dive right on in. First story of the week: sports gambling. It's legal. This was ruled back on May the 14th. The Supreme Court cleared the way on May 14th for states to legalize sports betting, striking down a 1992 federal law that had prohibited most states from authorizing sports betting. The 6-3 ruling is a victory for New Jersey and other states who have considered allowing sports gambling as a way to encourage tourism and tax revenue. The NCAA, NFL, and NBA had backed the federal prohibition. The court said the federal law violated constitutional principles, limiting the federal government from controlling state policy, unconstitutionally forcing states to prohibit sports betting under their own laws. So, Justice Samuel Alito, in a statement, said the legalization of sports gambling requires an important policy choice, but the choice is not ours to make. Congress can regulate sports gambling directly, but if it elects not to do so, each state is free to act on its own. Immediately after the ruling, the stock price for Caesars Entertainment rose 6%, and DraftKings said it will enter the sports betting market. Oh boy, what to make of all this? Well, the question now is whether Congress will leave the states to make their own choices or will now try to enact some kind of federal regulation of sports betting. New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy, he celebrated the decision, which began with a lawsuit brought by former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie. And Governor Murphy said, I am thrilled to see the Supreme Court finally side with New Jersey and strike down the arbitrary ban on sports betting imposed by Congress decades ago. Today's ruling will finally allow for authorized facilities in New Jersey to take the same bets that are legal in other states in our country. I mean, this whole thing started in 2011, when New Jersey voters approved a measure to legalize sports betting to help the casino industries in a faltering economy. But the state law was immediately challenged by professional sports leagues and the NCAA, which pointed to a federal law passed in 1992 that bans state sports betting with some exceptions. And the NCAA's chief legal officer, Donald Remy, he said in a statement that while the organization is still reviewing how court's decision affects college sports, it will adjust sports wagering and championship policies to align with the direction from the court. And Major League Baseball released a statement saying the decision will have profound effects on their sport. They said our most important priority is protecting the integrity of our games. We will continue to support legislation that creates airtight coordination and partnerships between the state, the casino operators, and the governing bodies in sports toward that goal. Major American sports leagues, including the NFL, NBA, and MLB, offered cautious reaction to the news, saying they would take steps to protect the integrity of the games and called for regulatory framework. Ted Leonsis, you remember him? He owns the Washington Wizards, the NBA's Washington Wizards, the WNBA's Washington Mystics, and your current Eastern Conference champion in the NHL, and possibly Stanley Cup champion in the future, Washington Capitals. He celebrated the decision. And he said it brings a multi-billion-dollar industry out of the shadows and into the sunlight, where its integrity can be guaranteed and consumers can be better protected. He wrote that in a blog post, adding, I think that the increased transparency that will accompany more legalized betting around the country will only further protect against potential corruption. And, so many others weighed in. I mean, uh, Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Sonia Sotomayor, Stephen Breyer. They criticized the majority, and you know, so much, a lot of it. And I mean, I'll be honest, I don't do any of that. Yes, we do the ESPN Pigskin Pick'em during the NFL season. You folks are aware of that. I mean, it's well documented when we talk about that during our NFL shows. And of course, we also do the CBS Sports.com's bracket manager during the NCAA tournament. And when we do those, we don't do those for money. We do it just for pure fun and for bragging rights. That's how I run any pools that I do. Now, MF, I know he does take part in some pools of some sort where there is money involved, where they do play for money, mainly in his Walmart leagues. And I know he's probably going to have something to say about that when we get to him. But you know, gambling, I, it can be fun, but at the same time, I mean, it can also be somewhat of a sin. I mean, it could cause family issues, because of money, but I don't do any of that. I mean, the only way I would is if I grew the biggest set I ever grew, but I don't know. It's not up to me. I mean, it's a big ruling, and it's a landmark decision, and I know it's going to. I mean, gambling's going to be an even bigger issue nowadays. And next Saturday, as you know, is the Preakness Stakes, or the Belmont Stakes, rather. And we have a chance at a Triple Crown. Oh, that's going to be one of the biggest days of sports gambling of the year right there. Can you imagine how many people are going to be at those windows? My goodness. So, just a lot to think about. I mean, now that it's all legal, I mean, what's it going to mean for the upcoming football season, college football, the NFL, and most importantly, next March for next year's NCAA tournament? What's it going to mean for that? So many questions, yet so little time to figure out a proper answer. So I really don't have much more to say about this. I mean, MF knows a little more about this than I do. So, because he is our law and order after all, so he knows. I'm sure he's going to provide better insight than I can. So, MF, I'm going to bring you in now. It's legal. They legalized it back on May 14th. So and it's well documented. You are in some pay to play leagues, with your Walmart and the whole thing, 9 yards. But I know it's out of fun and whatnot. So,
Yep.
What are your thoughts on all this?
Well, it feels like it's a time of change, and that's really what it is. It opens up the books to legalize gambling in major pro sports. And I really thought it was legal for a number of years. I know in Europe they do it a lot for EPL, English Premier League soccer, La Liga in Spain. I know there's some in outside of the United States where they do gamble on sports. And sometimes there was Major League Baseball, there's always NBA, there's always NBA, but they never really did it in certain areas. Only certain states was legal. Atlantic City, New Jersey, Las Vegas, Nevada, they were all legal, but it was only in just those states. This opens the doors for everybody. Now everybody can jump in on this. And that's a major deal. Now you can go to like Twin River in Lincoln, Rhode Island, or you can go to any casino or any place where they're going to be gambling, and you can bet on all these games and everything else. But the thing is always, what type of revenue are you going to get state by state? Because that's going to be the big thing now, is that how is the state going to benefit from all these sports gambling sites, and plus the major sports wants their piece of the pie as well. The NBA, more than any other sport, was really backing this decision and was really hoping for the legalization of gambling and sports gambling across America, because they really wanted this really more than any other organization. MLB kind of shied away. The NHL didn't want nothing to do with it. The NCAA, yes, in a way they did, but they weren't really backing it like the NBA was. The NFL actually wasn't really for it at the beginning until the very end. Then they were like, all right, we want in. But if you honestly want who is really responsible for this and who really wanted this pretty badly was Adam Silver, the commissioner of the National Basketball Association. He was with some of those states, especially the state of New Jersey, because of the fact that their league offices is in Secaucus, New Jersey. They wanted this to be a forefront to get the legalized gambling in the states, and they did it. So big ups to the NBA, big ups to the state of New Jersey for winning it in the Supreme Court. Now it opens the door for all these other states, and already, Anthony, 11 states, including the state of Rhode Island, are actually going to put ballot measures about this. So we might get a chance to vote on this November, guys. So for all you states out there, I don't know which states it is. I know there were some states that are going to do it outside of it, and they're going to try to do it legally. But, of course, for us in the state of Rhode Island, and I believe Massachusetts, there's going to be ballot questions coming this November about possibly legalizing sports gambling at their sites, which means if this does go through, you can go to Twin River and you can legally bet on games. The NFL, the Major League Baseball, the NHL, the NBA, they'll get to do that, and that'll happen very, very, very soon. So we'll wait and see what happens. But Anthony, yeah, like you said, this was a monumental moment for sports fans around the world, because a lot of the times you kind of do get those opportunities. You know, DraftKings.com, FanDuel.com, it kind of is like sports gambling, but it's fantasy sports. Now you get to play for real. The real games, real spreads, real money being shuffled around. They just had to kind of get the language down and, you know, to more or less work around that angle. But other than that, this is a big moment for sports around the world, and for the gambling too. I mean, like you said, a lot of these big events that are being shuffled around, you know, FIFA World Cup is coming up in about 10 days from now. The FIFA World Cup begins, and we got a lot to talk about from now until then. Plus, of course, in September, the NFL season begins. Then you got the NBA in October. November, October is the start of the NHL season. So there's going to be a lot to be going down, but they need to get all the parameters in place so that by the time the league's year starts, we'll have at least a more clear-cut, refined situation where, you know, there won't be any debate or any kind of, hopefully we'll have a universal ruling so that it'll be more fair for everybody to get an opportunity and get their hands on this league. So nothing more to say. Anthony, it's yours.
One other thing I want to add to this, MF, before we move on. One state has already thrown their hat into the sports gambling ring. We have a state that's already thrown their hat into it. The state of Delaware.
Yes.
Delaware has thrown their hat into the sports gambling arena. So that's official, and that's going to go into effect on this coming Tuesday, according to their governor John Carney. So it's going to launch a full-scale sports gaming operation at its 3 casinos. So Dover Downs Hotel and Casino, Delaware Park, and Harrington Raceway and Casino. So that's it. So that is confirmed. Delaware, the first state to offer sports betting after the ruling. So we'll have much more on it if it becomes available. So with all that being said, let's now move on. Of course, what's a Strictly Sports show without hard times? And well, we have not one but 2 hard time stories. I don't really want to consider it hard times. I kind of want to consider, well, this particular one, I consider this very controversial, and the other is most certainly hard times. But it's the NFL, the national anthem. The owners unanimously approved the new national anthem policy that requires players to stand if they are on the field during the performance, but gives them the option to remain in the locker room if they prefer. The policy subjects teams to a fine if a player or any other team personnel do not show respect for the anthem. That includes any attempt to sit or kneel, as dozens of players have done during the past 2 seasons to protest racial inequality and police brutality. And those teams also will have the option to fine any team personnel, including players, for the infraction. Okay, MF, what do we think of this? Oh,
I'm
boy,
just.
We're gonna go Cerebral Viper here.
No. I'm not. I rather not. I think Michelle Beadle from from the new ESPN2 show said it best. The NFL went backwards. They never ever consulted the players. They never talked to the players about the rules or anything else like that. They went and they did this on their own. The owners kind of caved under the pressure of conservatives, of the sponsors, and basically anybody who was very angry about the protest and everything else that happened a year ago, and what brought a black eye to the NFL. And they thought by doing it this way that this should rectify the problem. The thing is, you never talked with any of the players. You never talked to the Players Association about this. And you basically forced this rule on them. And the problem is that you might have just caused an even bigger problem with the Players Association. You thought that the divide between the Players Association and the NFL was bad? It might have gotten even worse because of this. And I'm going to be very honest with you, Anthony. I think a strike might be imminent in 2020. And I am not going to be shocked if we get a strike or another lockout in 2020. The collective bargaining agreement expires at that time. And I truly believe, with as negative as this was, I think that I understand why the league did it. I understand why they needed it to do something about it. And what it did was you literally, I don't want to say it, but I'll say it. You kind of alienated the Players Association. And a lot of the times what they were arguing about, what they were basically, what the real protest was about, it almost was like the owners didn't really care about the protests of the players. And the thing was, it never ever was about the flag. It never was disrespecting the troops or anything else like that. That's just that PR machine that conservatives want you to believe. And what it really was about was a lot of African Americans was against the racial discrimination that a lot of African American men were getting from police brutality, from other factions, whatever you want to call it. And they were upset about that. And they took the stand that, it was a controversial stand. It started with Colin Kaepernick, and it was with some other players in the NFL and some other players, all kind of either locked arms or, they kneeled, and it was shocking to see that happen. But they were exercising their right, as Americans to do what they wanted it to do. And by heck or high water, they didn't care about the situation. You had the incident in Pittsburgh where the team didn't even go out on the field. Seattle was the same way. Their players did not go out on the field. They stayed in the locker room when the anthem was played. So a lot of people were wondering, were we going to go back to that kind of attitude? In college football, very notably, and I need to bring this up, during college football, no teams are out on the field when the national anthem are played. If you notice, in the national championship game, Alabama and Georgia, none of the players, none of the coaches, none of the personnel was on the sidelines during the anthem. That is a legal mandate that is ruled by the NCAA. That is in their bylaws. So it is very interesting how this plays out. I wonder what will happen with some of these players, because I truly believe, I think some of them will want to protest. So I would not be shocked if some of these players just does not come out and stay in the locker room. So I don't know. Did the NFL make this better? I don't think they did. I think they just made it even worse on themselves more than anything else. But, we'll wait and see what happens. It's going to be very interesting. Now we're going to have something to look at during preseason, because this rule is going to be in effect. So that means any games in August now, we're going to be watching the sidelines to see what is going to happen. Are they going to follow this mandate? Are some of these players going to stay in the locker room? What's going to happen? We're just going to have to wait and find out. This is going to be very interesting, Anthony. I think we're going to be in for a little bit of some trouble, some murky waters. And how is the NFL going to enforce these fines, as they say, for the anthems too? That's also going to be a thing that we're going to have to keep a close eye on. So I don't know, Anthony. I think we might be heading into some very murky waters heading into this upcoming NFL season. It's all yours, my friend.
Oh boy. Oh, you don't know what hard times are, Daddy. Well, we know what hard times are, and we could be on the cusp of them right here. I mean, the hard times blues are coming here, no doubt about it. I mean, yeah, you said it, MF. A lot of people not happy about it. I mean, the executive director of the NFLPA, DeMaurice Smith, Uh, he reacted with displeasure, saying history has taught us that both patriotism and protest are like water. If the force is strong enough, it cannot be suppressed. Today, the CEOs of the NFL created a rule that people who have autocracies should reject. And management has chosen to quash the same freedom of speech that protects someone who wants to salute the flag in an effort to prevent someone who does not wish to do so. The sad irony of this rule is that anyone who wants to express their patriotism is subject to the whim of a person who calls himself an owner. I know that not all of the NFL CEOs are for this, and I know that true American patriots are not cheering today. I mean, they spent months in discussions and another 3 hours over 2 days at the league's spring meetings. Owners said this found a compromise that will end sitting or kneeling with an edict that stops short of requiring every player to stand. The previous policy required players to be on the field for the anthem, but said only that they, quote unquote, should stand. And of course, like MF said, he brought up the man responsible for all of this, which was Colin Kaepernick. We all know he's the man who catapult jumped this whole thing. And, back in 2016, and the league had no rule it could use to prevent it. And of course, it drew increasing criticism from many fans, and of course, one person in particular, that of course being our current president, Mr. Donald J. Trump. And of course, Donald Trump was, of course, very instrumental. I think he was the one who was very instrumental in getting to have this new policy in place. I mean, I'm sure he probably, had a hand in this. It wouldn't surprise me if he did. It wouldn't surprise me at all. And they believed it was a sign of disrespect toward the flag in the country, which, in a way, I got to say it was. But owners, however, they had been divided on how to extricate the league from that criticism. Jerry Jones, Bob McNair from the Texans, they wanted all players to stand, and others, such as Christopher Johnson from the Jets, wanted to avoid any appearance of muzzling players. And Mark Murphy, the Green Bay Packers, the league finalized an $89 million social justice platform with players to help address some of the underlying issues that were under protest. And Mr. Murphy also said, I think we learned from each other in order to come to a unanimous consensus. Talked about a lot of their players. When you look back at last fall, it was difficult for all of us within the league. But one of the positives that came out of it was an improved relationship with our players. And of course, Commissioner Goodell, in a statement accompanying the announcement, said the league wanted to eliminate criticism that suggested the protests were unpatriotic. He said it was unfortunate that on-field protests created a false perception among many that thousands of NFL players were unpatriotic. This is not and was never the case. Eric Reed, also from the 49ers, him and Kaepernick have both filed collusion cases against the league after failing to find jobs as free agents. Chris Long from the Super Bowl champion Eagles, he tweeted that the policy is fear of a diminished bottom line. And he's a white guy. Notably kept his hand on African-American teammate Malcolm Jenkins back for the entire playing of the anthem before a preseason game last year. And then he gave Jenkins a pat on the shoulder pads and a hug when the song was over. And Long says it's also fear of a president turning his base against a corporation. It's not patriotism. Don't get it confused. These owners don't love America more than the players demonstrating and taking real action to improve. It also lets you, the fan, know where our league stands. So, it's just a lot to digest here. And, Jenkins, one of a handful of outspoken players who vowed to carry on the case. And he says, I will not let it silence me or stop me from fighting. It's never been about taking a knee, raising a fist, or anyone's patriotism, but doing what we can to affect real change for real people. It's a lot to digest. And, there was a lot of controversy about this last season. And I wouldn't be surprised if we end up getting just as much, if not more, to come for this upcoming season. Of course, MF said the preseason, yes, in a couple months. That'll be very interesting to see, without a doubt. But more importantly, what's it going to be like when the regular season starts? What's it going to be like on that opening night in September? That opening Thursday night when the Philadelphia Eagles square off against the Atlanta Falcons for that opening game. What is it going to be like at Lincoln Financial Field on that Thursday night after Labor Day in September? 3 months. That's going to be very interesting to see. So, and who knows, that night could set the tone for the entire season. So I don't know. We're just gonna have to, we're just gonna have to look into it. We're just gonna have to see what happens. So yeah, I mean, it is what it is. So we're just gonna have to hope that something, that some kind of that we can avoid it. We can avoid the controversy, but we know that's not gonna happen. I mean, this is gonna overshadow the entire season, and that's a damn shame. I mean, it shouldn't be about the national anthem. It should be about the games and the standings and the competitiveness of those games. That's what I want personally. I don't want any political nonsense to overshadow any sporting event whatsoever. That's my personal feel about it. So, but it is what it is. So, all right, yeah, the hard times just keep on coming here on this show. We got to talk about the Sterling Brown arrest video. Oh boy, it came out back on May 24th, and yeah, the video was released. I mean, we know the story. Sterling Brown. This all went down in January. It was in a Walgreens parking lot, and try to get more information here. Yeah, Sterling Brown was tased and arrested after police say he became confrontational over an alleged parking violation. And now the city's mayor says he is concerned about the soon to be released video. And now Brown was not criminally charged in the incident, which prompted an internal affairs group. All right, let me see. Yeah, Mayor Barrett, Tom Barrett from Milwaukee. Now, Brown was not criminally charged in the incident, which prompted an internal affairs investigation, authorities said at the time. According to a police report obtained by CNN affiliate WISN, Brown was aggressive when a police officer questioned him in a Walgreens parking lot and then resisted arrest. 4 months later, Milwaukee police are bracing for a possible backlash from the expected release of the video from January 26th. At least 2 officers were involved in the incident, and it all went down, and the video has been released. It's all over the web, ESPN, YouTube, the whole 9 yards. And the police department apologized and said officers who acted inappropriately have been disciplined after an internal investigation over an incident with a stun gun was used on Sterling Brown after he was questioned over a potential parking violation. Body camera video of the incident was released by the police shortly after Police Chief Alfonso Morales' news conference. Criminal charges against Brown were not pursued. Morales said in a statement that was read to gathered media, and Morales said, "I am sorry this incident escalated to this level." He didn't take questions from reporters, and Brown was arrested in the Walgreens parking lot at about 2 a.m. local time on January 26th. 8 minutes into the 30-minute video, an officer can be seen and heard loudly telling Brown to remove his hands from his pockets. And Brown appears to say, "Leave me alone, I've got stuff in my hands." And several officers then converged on Brown in an apparent effort to subdue him, and a struggle ensues. An officer could be heard yelling, "Taser, taser, taser," at the 8:40 mark, after which Brown can be heard grunting several times. And the video later shows police reviewing papers and combing through Brown's car. One officer can also be heard saying to another he was being an ass and trying to hide something. Brown, who has said he plans to file a lawsuit against the Milwaukee PD, said in a statement that the experience has forced me to stand up and tell my story so that I can help prevent these injustices from happening in the future. What should have been a simple parking ticket turned into an attempt at police intimidation, followed by unlawful use of physical force, including being handcuffed and tased and then unlawfully booked. This experience with the Milwaukee PD has forced me to stand up and tell my story. Yeah, we talked about that. The video begins with a single officer approaching Brown, whose late model Mercedes appears to be parked vertically across 3 lanes. And, the officers begin arguing, having asked Brown to back up on whether there was contact between them. Simple questions, and Then later, 3 minutes into the video, a police car siren can be heard before a vehicle with flashing sirens approaching on the street. And he asked what was going on, and the officer said, "You had time to park across these lanes here, so we're going to wait a little longer," indicating he was waiting for backup to arrive before proceeding. And then he went on to say, "Black men shouldn't have to have their guard up and instantly be on the defensive when seeing a police officer, but it's a reality and a real problem." Brown said in his statement, "There must be mutual respect, and both sides have to figure out how to accomplish this. This is bigger than me, my family, friends, legal team, Priority Sports, Milwaukee Bucks, the Black community, and the communities of all who stand against injustice plan to continue the fight." And the Bucks, in a statement, said the abuse and intimidation that Sterling experienced at the hands of Milwaukee police was shameful and inexcusable. Unfortunately, this isn't an isolated case. It shouldn't require an incident involving a professional athlete to draw attention to the fact that that vulnerable people in our communities have experienced similar and even worse treatment. We are grateful for the service of many good police officers that courageously protect us, our fans, and our city, but racial biases and abuses of power must not be ignored. There needs to be more accountability. And the video represents another setback for a department that for years has tried to rebuild its image in relationship with Milwaukee's African-American residents after several high-profile cases of police misconduct. And Fred Royal, the president of the NAACP, said, "I find it disturbing that an officer would incite an argument over a parking citation." He said he didn't see anything that would warrant Brown to get tased. And Milwaukee police said there are other versions of body cam footage that were captured the night of Brown's arrest. And Milwaukee Mayor Tom Barrett said Monday, said after viewing the video, he was concerned about public backlash over the officer's conduct. He said Morales also had a similar reaction. "I'm going to let the release of that speak for itself, but yes, I definitely have concerns after watching that video," Mayor Barrett said. And then Morales released a message to the community video saying he will stand by officers who act right, but will admit error when officers act wrong. "So if there's ever an incident where one of our members makes a mistake, unnecessarily escalating a situation, I'm going to be honest and transparent about it," he said. "In those instances where we have made mistakes and are wrong, I'm sorry," Morales added. Oh, is this ever going to end? I mean, the whole Black Lives Matter thing, I know that. And guns rights advocates often make the argument that citizens need to be able to be armed to fight tyranny. And this video is what the early stages of tyranny look like. I mean, you got tased unlawfully, poses legally owned concealed weapon. Oh my goodness. I mean, just so many. I mean, there have been other instances. I mean, we saw the incident in Baltimore. We all know that story. And you know, I honestly don't know what to say. I mean, it is disgusting. It is appalling. And, you know, anytime I hear stories like this, it really, really angers me. I mean, because, I am a man of good faith. And I just hope and I pray that one of these days something will be done about this, and we don't have any more instances like this. I mean, this world is horrific right now. So much division, so much racial tension. I mean, I think the racial tension is at its all-time worst. I think it's even worse than it was in the 50s and the 60s during the whole Martin Luther King thing. You thought it was bad then. Oh no, it's even worse now. I mean, we hear all about these things. I'm very concerned. About all these videos that the mass media continues to show. All these violent videos, whether it's police brutality or any of that. That's a problem for me. And as a faithful disciple of the Lord, this is something that gets to me, and I know, and I'm sure my fellow congregation would feel the exact same way I do about this situation. It's just a shame that these things keep happening without an end in sight. I don't know. I just don't know. So honestly, I'm just gonna park it right here because I don't want this to turn into what we had a little over a year ago. You remember the whole Aaron Hernandez situation. I do not want it to escalate into anything like that. So I'm gonna do what I should have done that night. I'm just gonna keep my mouth shut. No further comment. Parking it right here. MF, whatever you want to say, just
I saw the video. I saw everything that happened, and I was outraged. I was angry. And I understand why the commissioner said what he said, and he had every right to be concerned because a lot of people were angry. Not just African Americans, but even your local Milwaukeeans were not happy with your police department. The Bucks came out and rightfully sided with the player, sided with him. They basically held judgment because of course you never know because you always hear things happen one way or another, but you wait until the video comes out. But once the video came out and once you saw the police intimidation and the way that they handled this, remember what I was telling you about the police brutality and why there was the protest in the NFL? This is why this is the exact reason why you got the protest in the NFL. For things like this. And for the NBA, they've handled this with class, with honor. They've done it so correct. I think they handled the protesting of the players and, because they let their players have a voice. They let them, they stand by them when they feel something's not right, and they actually let them say it. And they don't care about the repercussions. They don't care about the negativity or if that's going to hurt what they believe. No, they stand behind the players. And that's why I believe, other than Major League Baseball, there is so much unity in the NBA with the owners and the players that there's nothing bad going on. I gotta say it, and I'm gonna go off the rails here, or I'm gonna go off the reservations, but it needs to be said. Having Adam Silver as the commissioner of the league has been nothing but a godsend to the NBA, because the first major act that he did was handle Donald Sterling and got him out of the league after his absolute disgusting attitude towards Magic Johnson, towards African Americans, and it was without a doubt the most repulsive thing they did. And Adam Silver laid down the law and slapped them with the most devastating fine and punishment you ever could do to a person in the NBA, banning him for life, taking the LA Clippers away from him, and then also making him pay $1 million fine on top of that, which is the biggest fine that was laid in NBA history. That is actually the biggest punishment he could give him under the CBA, because he probably would have dusted him even worse if he wanted to. But other than that, he made it very clear that actions like this was not going to be reprehensible in the NBA. And plus, they let their players talk about what they wanted to talk about. And the thing is, the players have used the platform correctly. They haven't gone off the reservation. They haven't been one of those things. One of the most iconic moments of the NBA was during the ESPY Awards, where they were talking about unity as African Americans. And what were the names of that? Carmelo Anthony, Dwayne Wade, LeBron James. These are the biggest names in the NBA. And they're talking about social justice. The NBA got it right. And again, I applaud the Milwaukee Bucks for standing up for their player, knowing that this was wrong, knowing that this was against the law, knowing that the cops were wrong on this. And they had the right, and they actually say, this was wrong, this was unlawful, this was disgraceful, and they are not going to stand by and let one of their own get taken through the carpet on this, that we stand with him. That is the biggest factor than anything else. They do not run, they did not hide, they did not go by the statute. They actually stood up, manned up, and sided with the player. Regardless if it's right or wrong, they realized it once the video came out. Once they saw it for themselves, they took action. And that's the right way to do it. You do not hide or wait. You do not hide from any situation. Any organization, if a person believes that they have been wronged, you want to have the backing of your organization. The players would like to have management on their side. And not only did the coach come through, the ownership came through, the GM came through, the organization as a whole is siding with the player. I applaud the Milwaukee Bucks for doing the right thing, and this is correct. I applaud you, Milwaukee, even though we may not like you because we are rivals, divisional rivals, and, whatever. But I applaud you and I salute you for doing what's right, for manning up and to call out this injustice that this was. And there's really nothing more to add to it. It's just that when you see something wrong, call it out, expose it, let the media know about it, because, I'm sick and tired of this fake news garbage that I hear from certain people. I'm not going to mention any names. Anthony, you already know where I go with that. But whenever there is times where, things are not correct or politicized, whatever, we need to take accountability and to call out people in the wrong. The Milwaukee Police Department was wrong for what they did. They overstepped their boundaries. They went out of bounds. They went and did things that is above and beyond what they should have normally done in normal police protocol, and they violated that. And I hope, and the police department is already saying that they're going to handle this, that the guys who have been has been reprimanded, and that's fine. But there's also got to be a public apology or some kind of compensation. Now, I know he's going for a lawsuit. I don't know if he's going to get it. Maybe, maybe not. But I think what there needs to be is that the addressment that has been already up to this point. And that is that, if he was in the wrong, then fine. Then, what we saw is what we saw. But you could tell that this was beyond what the standard protocol should have been. So there's really nothing more to say. Like I said, I applaud the Milwaukee Bucks, for standing up and doing the right thing on this. Nothing more to say. Floyd, go.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, MF. And to put them out of the bed, like I said, I'm not just terribly concerned, I'm also very disappointed with the graphic displays of violence that the mass media has been shoving down our throats recently.
I agree with that as well, Florio. I agree with that as well, because I don't know if this is propaganda by the media to make the because that's also another thing you got to be very careful about, is that all these negative stories that we're hearing, and it's from CNN, it's from you gotta be careful of where it's coming from, because it almost looks like it's a slant that is supposed to paint a lot of negativity throughout the country. And that's one thing that you talk about, and that's one thing that there's rightful concern, and you got a right to be concerned. You definitely do. It's just you got there's a fine line, a very fine line, and once you cross that line, you got to be careful. You got to be expecting the repercussions. And I hope everybody, not just the media, not just law enforcement, we all got to be very mindful of the landmines that are out there in the world. And that's the best way to say it.
Very true. And as a man of good faith and a man of the Lord and the whole 9 yards, I just plead and I pray for the protection of every man, woman, and child out there today, regardless of race, sex, creed, what have you. That's all I can say on that. So it's a big problem here. It's a big problem that's not going away anytime soon. It's the gift that keeps on giving. So I'm hopeful that we will not be hearing about any more instances of like this anytime soon. And so help me if it does. I will not hold back. That's all there is to it. So, all right. We're going to move on to a much lighter note. Even though we can honestly say we're not exactly thrilled about the matchup, it is the NBA Finals. And, it already started. It started last night. We had game one, a wild and crazy game one. Yes, there was some controversy in it as well. Very questionable call, a charging call. Nonetheless, we got the matchup that we honestly did not want, which was the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Golden State Warriors. Game one was Thursday night. The Golden State Warriors won the game by a score of 124-114 in overtime. Of course, there was that moment of controversy with that questionable charging call. And of course, J.R. Smith, who committed maybe arguably the biggest dipsy-do botcheroo you will ever see in the history of sports. Golden State up 1-0. Game two will be Sunday night, 8 o'clock at the Oracle in Oakland. And then the series will shift to Cleveland. Game three will be on Wednesday night. Game four will be next Friday night. We'll probably provide updates during next week's special edition of Strictly Sports, which I'll address at the end of the show. Game five, if it's needed, will be on Monday night, June 11th, back in Oakland. And then game six will go back to Cleveland if necessary on Thursday, June 14th. And if a winner-take-all game seven is needed, it will be at the Oracle in Oakland on Father's Day night, Sunday, June 17th, which will also coincide with the WWE Money in the Bank pay-per-view. So you have the schedule, you know the story. So MF, we're going to start it with you here. Another year, another Cavs-Warriors NBA Finals matchup. Game one last night. a lot more entertaining than we thought it would be. Went to OT. J.R. Smith with the botcheroo. Unfortunately, we had that moment of controversy with that charge call. But nonetheless, MF, regardless of what happened in game one, who do you ultimately have winning the Larry O'Brien trophy? Do the Golden State Warriors make it 2 in a row and 3 out of 4? Or do LeBron and the Cavs even the score?
No, I think it's going to be the Warriors. Going into this series, I thought that the Warriors were the more superior team, and no doubt about it. I thought Cleveland had to steal game one in order to win that game, to win the series. It was a great game. It was a very entertaining game, to say the very least. I think it was definitely it felt like a heavyweight championship fight. It was a good battle, back and forth. Both teams really went for it, and it's a good series, to say the very least. Yeah, I know we're poo-pooing it because it is the same NBA final matchup, but it is what it is. But we got it, and they delivered. I thought this was a very solid game one. Of course, there was some controversial calls along the way, but I'm going to openly admit it, Anthony. That was a blocking foul. That was not a charge. I was shocked that the one thing I would have said was that I'm shocked that they actually went to the replay to overturn it, because on the court, I would have said that was not a charge. That was a block. The way LeBron was, and me being the analyst on this one, he was not in a defensive setup. It was kind of more that he slided over, basically not in a defensive posture that you're supposed to be in order to be constituted as a charge, more than anything else. So it definitely was that. And then the J.R. Smith thing, I mean, he's getting ripped meme after meme after meme. If we had Gene Okerlund around, man, oh my God, this guy would have been crucified right now. But it is what it is. But I do believe that Golden State should win the series pretty handily. I got them winning in five or six. But I do have the Warriors winning the NBA title again. Nothing more to say. Anthony, it's yours.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. Seen previously on Cleveland versus Golden State NBA Finals, that's really how the broadcast should have began. The matchup of Eastern and Western winners that we've gotten, the one so many experts and insiders envisioned in October, is here. It's like a new season of The Sopranos or The Walking Dead or some other recurring limited TV series with a lower attrition rate of recognizable characters, at least. But some aficionados might have preferred, well, I'm at least one NBA aficionado that preferred a champion, that preferred this series to be the other way around, with the Houston Rockets and the Boston Celtics, or both, just to freshen things up and introduce some new blood to the NBA's grandest stage. The media folks who will be covering it surely would have welcomed new storylines behind fresh faces. You know me. I feel the same way about that when it comes to the WWE, whether it's Raw or SmackDown Live. But there is an equally compelling argument to be made on behalf of this fourth installment of this series. Sports thrive on rivalries, and with 4 consecutive finals clashes, this rematch arguably rates second only to the storied Celtics-Lakers struggle over the past 60 years. Until these two teams locked horns for the first time 3 years ago, NBA opponents had only butted heads in consecutive finals 12 times. Never had the same teams made it to 3 in a row. So history already has been made, with more likely to come. So, and this might be, as some have suggested, the stiffest test yet for LeBron in his 9 final appearances. He leads a team with a predictably unreliable or reliably unpredictable supporting cast and is down 1 star. Of course, that was Kyrie Irving, who's in Boston, from the Cavs squad that got dispatched in 5 games by the Warriors last year. But LeBron, at the age of 33 in his 15th year, has appeared in all 100 Cleveland games so far, inaugually produced, and it's his best performance ever. Let's not kid ourselves. So, 3 quick questions. Who guards LeBron? Who guards Kevin Durant? And does the whole thing get decided in the third quarter? I mean, the first question, LeBron, who guards him? So far in this postseason, LeBron has dealt with Bojan Bogdanovic from Indiana, Toronto's Lance, and also Lance Stevenson. From Toronto, OG Anunoby and Pascal Siakam, and Marcus Morris and Jalen Brown and Marcus Smart in Boston. If Andre Iguodala, the Warriors' primary LeBron assignment, isn't recovered from the bone bruise that sent him down in the Houston series, we'll see Draymond Green, maybe some David West, and younger defense committee members. Iggy is Golden State's preferred option, not just to pester and deny the Cavs star at one end, but to attack to make LeBron work as a defender himself. Who guards Kevin Durant? As soon as you answer that, tell us who guards Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, and that's always the problem with the Warriors, the sheer number of scoring weapons they can throw at any defensive game plan. Cleveland ranked 29th of the 30 teams in defensive rating, and it will rely more on individual matchups and adjustments, the way Coach Lue went to Tristan Thompson or Larry Nance up front, as he saw fit to prompt or counter Boston's tactics. Still, as far as Kevin Durant goes, Jeff Green is a mobile wing new to this series, and Rodney Hood might have been as well if he hadn't dropped out of Lue's rotation weeks ago. And does the whole thing get decided in the third quarter? The old cliche about the NBA was that you could watch the last 5 minutes and see everything you need. Updated to this year with these combatants, those first 12 minutes after halftime loom as pivotal. The Cavs have had a bad habit of coming out flat in the third quarter this postseason. They've been outscored 438 to 437 in their 18 playoff games, and have hit just 34.6% of their shots. Golden State, by contrast, is relentless in the third. In their 17 games to this point, they've outscored teams by 130 points in the third quarter, compared to a total of 20 points in the other three quarters combined. And they hit just about 52% of their shots while averaging a lethal 30.5 points in that quarter. Fixing their leaks while slowing down the Californians just in the third quarter could swing a couple games. And the number to know is 4.5. The Warriors have been the postseason's most improved defensive team, having allowed 4.5 fewer points per 100 possessions in the playoffs at 99.7 than they did in the regular season at 104.2. Cavs have had the second most improved defense, having allowed 3.6 fewer points per 100 possessions, 105.9 in these postseason to 109.5 during the regular season. So, nothing really here to say except it's Golden State. I mean, MF said it. I mean, the Warriors owner Joe Lacob, in a brief interview with theathletic.com, said immediately after the Warriors' Game 7 victory in Houston Monday night, sort of tired of Cleveland, to be honest. But having said that, LeBron James is an immense challenge, an incredible player. It'll be fun. Familiarity might grow more respect between the principals in the series. James seems to get along swimmingly with Kevin Durant, while no NBA player past or present denies LeBron's talents and achievements, but also famously breeds contempt. Green and James have a history. Fans on both sides have honed their heckling over 3 years, and probably both the Warriors and the Cavs would have welcomed a change of foe. The regular season series went handily 2-0 to Golden State, but they faced each other way back on Christmas Day and Martin Luther King Day. And in fact, it was Cleveland's low-energy performance in the second meeting that led to its big roster makeover at the deadline. And those moves, exciting at the time, have meshed slowly and inconsistently, leaving LeBron to again shoulder too great a burden. He carried a 2015 Cavs team, subbing in Matthew Dellavedova for Kyrie Irving to 6 games versus Golden State, but the Warriors were new to this themselves then. This time may go down like a rerun or a quote-unquote encore presentation, as they say in the world of television. Golden State in 5. That's all there is to it. MF, I couldn't agree with you more. I'll be shocked if this thing goes further than that, and I'd also be surprised if it goes the other way. But Golden State, they're on their way to a dynasty, folks. That's all there is to it. And the one person that I know that would be very happy about that happens to be my older sister Nicole's longtime friend, Dawn Avalar, her lovely friend, Dawn Avalar, who I have talked to on many occasions about this. And I know she could not have been any more delighted about how that game went down, although she did show respect to LeBron, because LeBron had the game of his life in game 1 with 51 points. But it's Golden State. That's all there is to it. And if that's the case, that would be 2 in a row, 3 out of 4. Last time I checked, that was a dynasty. So nothing more to say here. Warriors in 5. I agree with MF 100%. So All right. So with all that being said, let's move on now to the main event of the evening, which is the Major League Baseball power rankings. And we just now I remember doing them a little earlier. I just got to pull up my spreadsheet that I put my power rankings in. So just give me a moment. Okay. There we go. Okay. So a lot of things went down this evening. Of course, I think some indemnants might need to be made. But I do have one honorable mention that I want to address, and that honorable mention is the Detroit Tigers. They've won 3 in a row. They're 7-3 in the last 10, but they're 27-30. They're just still under 500. So we'll see what that does. And I think that's the only honorable mention I have. I don't think I have any others. So yeah, that's just about right. So yep, that's it. Okay, that's the only honorable mention I wanted to address. So yeah, so with all that being said, let's dive right on in to this installment. And I'm going to start it off at number 10. I think I'm going to start with Philadelphia. I think I'm going to go with the Philadelphia Phillies at number 10. 5-5, 1 in a row, 31-23. And yeah, it's Philly. It's Philly. 4th in ERA, 11th in WHIP, 17th in runs scored, 22nd in batting average. And let me see. Just waiting for the. Okay, there we go. That's what I'm looking for. All right. Decent week. They split a 4-game series with the Dodgers. They're currently against the Giants right now. They're down 3-0. 2 more against the Giants this weekend, and then they're off on Monday, and then they go to Chicago for a 3-game series with the Cubs, and then they got Milwaukee coming in for a 3-game series. That's going to be a tough series considering how great Milwaukee's been. They're in the upper echelon. Milwaukee is, no doubt about it. They're in the top 5 for sure. So I think that pretty much covers everything. So I got the Philadelphia Phillies at number 10. And if I got it wrong, I apologize, but I think Philly's
fair enough. No, fair enough. And I agree with that. I definitely do. My number 10 is the Philadelphia Phillies as well. And no, you basically touched on everything you needed to touch on. So we jump into number 9, which I'll lead off. And a few days ago, I probably would not have had them in the power rankings, but back-to-back wins over the Washington Nationals cemented this, including tonight a 4-0 shutout. Atlanta, welcome back to the power rankings. The Atlanta Braves, the NL Eastern Division leading Atlanta Braves, by the way, 34-23. Like I said, 5-5, but they've won 2 in a row. And this was a very crucial series. You needed to win this series because all of a sudden you had the Washington Nationals. They were making a big run. They leapfrogged over the Philadelphia Phillies. As a matter of fact, going into this series, the Braves was actually a half game behind the Nationals when this series began. Atlanta already has won the first 2 games of the 4-game set. And more importantly, if they sweep this, that puts them 3.5 ahead of the Nationals, which is a lot of breathing room that they're going to need. Of course, there's also some major help right now that the Giants are beating that the Giants are beating the Phillies. Hopefully that holds. If you're a Braves fan, you want that. You want that to go final and have the San Francisco Giants beat the Philadelphia Phillies. That would drop them a half game back. That would actually drop them 2 games behind. And because that's the thing you want now. You want breathing room in the division. It's too close for comfort. But the way Atlanta's been playing, man, I mean, they've been unbelievable. We kind of got a little bit beaten up pretty badly by the Red Sox. It was a major 4-game set. I think it was like a 3-game set. They lost 2 out of 3 on that one. Then they had a little bit of a not so good of a time with the Mets. I thought they were going to handle that a little more better. Split a 4-gamer. And then that kind of got them in trouble. That slipped them out of first place. But then the Nats came in, big series, and being at that new SunTrust Park, man, they've been feasting on the home cooking, especially the last 2 nights in a row. I'm loving the Braves, man. You know, the thing is, they're overachieving over what we were expecting them. Because honestly, did anybody really think Atlanta was going to make this much noise this early in the season? I don't think so. We kind of were thinking middle of the pack, maybe near the bottom of the NL East. And all of a sudden, they've surprised a lot of people, man. The pitching is there, but it's the hitting this time. Carlos Ortiz has been killing it. You did get a significant injury in the Boston series, which kind of had us a little worried, but it looks like it's not that bad. It's only a 10-day, which we can live with. And then you got you got Nick Markakis, Freddie Freeman. They're delivering. The pitching's been great. Yeah, there's nothing I can say. I'm glowing right now because we've been waiting about 3 or 4 years for Atlanta to turn it around, and now it looks like it's starting to happen. The Braves of old, it's starting to feel like the '90 Braves again. You know, the great pitching, the timely hitting, and us being on top of the NL East. It feels like the '90s again, but I don't want to start going crazy yet because there's still a long way to go, but at least we're on the right foot. We're now in June. If we keep this up, and if we keep this up by the All-Star break, we might be buyers instead of sellers going into the trading deadline. And if that's the case, let the chips fall where they may. That's all I say. Number 9, the Atlanta Braves. Anthony, it's all yours, my friend.
I can't tell you how impressed I've been with your team, MF. I mean, you remember when we did our baseball preview show? I'll admit it. I was one of the first ones that said, your boys ain't doing nothing. It's going to be another hard times year for you boys. Egg on my face. So, my goodness. But there is one player on your team, MF, that I'm very high on. Ozzy Albies. I am keeping an eye on that young man. That young man is a dynamo. And he reminds me of a young Rafael Furcal. I mean, I see Rafael Furcal when I see that kid. I mean, man, he is so fun to watch. And you know, I've also been high on Freeman. You know, we've had private conversations about your team in years past, and I've told you I'm also high on Freeman too. I mean, I see a bright future for him too. Nicky Markakis, who you scooped up from Baltimore. I mean, he's been a godsend. I mean, he had he was the hero on opening night. I remember that very well. That first game at SunTrust, and man alive. I mean, and just recently, I think it was back on May 20th, was the most impressive thing I've seen from this team in a long time. Down 9-4 going into the bottom of the 9th. They score 6 unanswered and they beat the Marlins 10-9. Unreal. But getting to the business at hand, you got the numbers to back it up, MF. Can you believe your team is second in batting average? Second. They're 4th in runs scored. That's also very good. They're in the top 10 in ERA at 10th. The only thing they got to work on is the WHIP. They're 20th. That's the only thing they got to work on. Other than that, I'm very impressed. I consider them my biggest surprise so far this year. I didn't think this team was going to amount to anything. I thought it was going to be another meh season for this team, but no. But since our last rankings, the only downside is they did lose 2 out of 3 to Bullocks, Red Sox, at Boston, and lucky for you, MF, Bullock's not here because I'm sure he would have rubbed that in your face.
Mm-hmm.
But thankfully, he's competing in the 50th annual Special Olympics games. But the Braves did rebound. They split a 4-game series, 2-2 with the Mets. They split a day-night doubleheader on Memorial Day. They won on Tuesday, and then they lost on Wednesday. And so far, 2 for 2 against the Nationals. That's very impressive, especially with how well they've been playing. 2 more against the Nationals this weekend, and then it's a road trip for MF's Braves, a 6-game road trip with 3 in San Diego, and then next weekend against the defending National League champion LA Dodgers before they return home on Tuesday, June 12th. Surprise, surprise, the Mets are coming in. That's a brief 2-game series, so very impressed with MF's team. I mean, MF went into every single detail that you could have gone into. 34-23, which I believe as of right now is the second best record in the National League.
Second best.
Yeah, second best. There's only one team that has a better record than MF's Braves, and we'll talk about them in a bit because they're in the upper echelon. But 2 in a row, 5-5 in the last 10, 34-23, a 1.5 game lead on Philly and Washington in the NL East. To me, the biggest surprise of this Major League Baseball season so far, beyond the shadow of a doubt. More power to you, boys, MF. I mean, you keep this up, we might have to bring back the Tomahawk song for the first time in forever and a day. I mean, and I don't blame you, man. I mean, I know this is conjuring up those memories of you, MF. I mean, those memories of the 90s when Maddox, Glavine, and Smoltz were raising hell. So, yeah, so I, for one, and you know I'm not easy to impress. You know how tough I am to impress.
Mm-hmm.
Or what your team's been doing lately, I cannot help but be impressed. More power to you, boys, man, without a doubt. So, you got it. Philadelphia, Phillies at 10, I should say. Atlanta Braves, number 5. One other honorable mention, the Oakland A's. I want to see more out of them, so just want to get them out of the way. So, all right, so let's move on now, and same thing with Colorado. I want to see more from them as well. So, let's move on. Now I think we're going to get into some 6-4 teams, and quite a few of those around the bend. So I believe we're going to start it off with the Tampa Bay Rays at number 8 because they're over 500, 28-27, 6-4. Actually, no, I take that back. It's actually Boston at number 8 because they've lost 2 in a row. So I gotta take that into consideration. Tampa's lost 1 in a row, so that's a factor. But I gotta put Boston in at number 8, 39-19, which I believe is right around the best record of the American League. I know it's a battle between them and the Yanks. Percentage points, man, it feels like the old days. But Boston leads the league in batting average and runs scored. They're 5th in the WHIP, and they're 8th in team ERA, which is very good. So let's move on here. Since our last rankings, which was a week ago, they won 2 out of 3 from Fletcher's Braves. They swept the Toronto Blue Jays 3 in a row, outscoring them 22-10 in the process. But they ran into a team, I think you've heard of them, the reigning and defending World Series champion Houston Astros. And just like their playoff series last October, Houston's had their number. They've lost 2 in a row to them. So, yeah. They got 2 more in Houston this weekend. Saturday night game of the week on Fox. Major League Baseball on Fox Saturday night. I expect to see the Joe Buck crew there. And then Sunday Night Baseball, they're at it again. They'll be on Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN. They're off on Monday, and then they got a 3-game series with the Detroit Tigers. And then next weekend they'll have the Chicago White Sox in. That's a 6-game homestand, and then they'll be back out on the road on the 11th when they go to Baltimore. So So yeah, that big move they made last week, getting rid of Hanley Ramirez to make room for Dustin Pedroia, I guess that's paying somewhat of some dividends. So, nothing more to say. Boston Red Sox #8. They lost 2 in a row. Got to take that into consideration, MF. So, what do you say?
Yeah, you got to take that into consideration. The Hanley Ramirez move. I mean, it was understandable. I get why they did it because you need to get Dustin Pedroia back. But boy, you're running into the Houston Astros, man. You're running into the world champions, and this is not good for them. They are getting crushed 7-3 this time around. I mean, yeah, it's bad. It's getting out of control, and it better get better, or else this could get even worse. And it's getting there. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. But no, you're right. Boston's been struggling, to say the very least, and that not in a good way. And you know, they gotta turn it around. They gotta turn it around because the thing is that the one problem is that, yeah, like you said, Anthony, the Yankees are nipping at the heels of the Red Sox. They're about to take over first place again on the Bo Sox. So Boston, you gotta get your act together. You better do something quick, or else by the end of the weekend you might be looking up at the New York Yankees again. You don't know.
Actually, MF, they already are. The Yankees are percentage points ahead of them.
Yeah, I guess it 9-6. Oh, I don't know. This is weird because
7 percentage points.
Yeah, this is weird because according to okay, yeah, they just updated it. All right, I was wondering. I was like, what is this? No, okay. So the Yankees are a half game ahead. All right. Well, like I said, this you're looking at. There you go. Nothing more to say. So, upward and onward we go. All right. So my number 7 is actually. You said this was probably where you were going to go with Tampa. I think I know why you said that.
Yeah.
Tampa 28-27, 9.5 out. You're thinking, what makes you think they are worthy of that ranking? But 6-4. They did lose a game. They did lose to Oakland in the last game, which was wow. But like you said, Oakland needs to get a little better. They got to work their way up. They definitely have a good chance to do some damage. But oh man, I mean, Oakland, yeah, you definitely get an honorable mention because of the fact you put a 16-0 whooping on the Kansas City Royals. Oofa! That's all I'm saying. So right now, yes, we got basically we have you got Tampa right now playing against a team that's literally in the upper echelon right now. The Seattle Mariners, man, where did they come from, man? Seattle's been killing it lately, but we'll get into them a little bit later on in these rankings. Don't worry, they'll be there. But nah, Tampa, not bad. Like I said, I like to see more. You're right on our fringe line, so be careful, guys. You can't afford any more losses. You could find yourself out of the rankings. Because remember, above 500 and above 500 only allowed in the power rankings. If you are below 500, if you're at 500, you're safe. Below 500, you're not even in consideration. So, nothing more to say. Anthony, it's yours. Number 7, the Tampa Bay Rays.
Yes, it is Tampa. Tampa is at number 7, and they're 4th in batting average and the WHIP, which is very good. They're 15th in ERA. They're 20th in runs scored. Since our last rankings, they won 2 out of 3 from the Baltimore Orioles. And then they won 3 out of 4 from the Oakland A's in Oakland. And as of right now, they are trailing the Seattle Mariners 3-2 in the top of the 8th inning at Safeco Field. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. 2 more games against Seattle this weekend. They're off on Monday. And then they got to go to Washington. Ooh, they got to go to Washington against the Nationals for a 2-game interleague series. And then the Seattle Mariners come to their place, Tropicana Field, for a 4-game series starting on Thursday. And that's the start of a 7-game homestand, because then they got Toronto coming in after that. They're back out on the road on June 14th. And when they go back out on the road, they're going to have the Yankees waiting for them in the stadium. It's feeding time. That's all I can say as a Yankee fan. So, well, we hope for it. So that's all I can say on that. So yes, it is the Tampa Bay Rays. They come in at number 7. So we move on now to number 6. This is an easy one. At number 6, so I want to make sure I have my notes correct here. Number 6, the 2016 World Series champions, the team that ended the longest drought in professional sports history, the Chicago Cubs. They come in at number 6, winners of 2 in a row, 6-4 in the last 10, a record of 31-23. Second to the Milwaukee Brewers in the NL Central, 3 games up. Well, they're 3 games behind, I should say. They are 3rd in team batting average, 3rd in team ERA, 6th in runs scored. The only thing they got to work on is the WHIP, 14th. I mean, that's solid, but not overly spectacular. So let's see what the Cubbies have been up to since our last rankings. They won 3 out of 4 from the Cincinnati Reds last weekend up in Cincinnati. The downfall. Well, actually, no, I misread that. I apologize. That was the previous week. They won 2 out of 3 from the San Francisco Giants. And then they followed that up by winning 2 out of 3 from the Pittsburgh Pirates in Pittsburgh. And so far, they're 2 for 2 against the New York Mets, outscoring them 12-5 in those 2 games. 2 more against the Mets this weekend at Citi Field in New York, off on Monday. And then a big series with the Philadelphia Phillies at home at Wrigley starting on Tuesday. It's the midst of a 6-game homestand. And then the Pittsburgh Pirates come in next weekend. And then they go back out on the road, and they're going to have the Brew Crew waiting for them at Miller Park. Huge implications in a couple weeks. Believe that. So that's really all I can say on that. So number 6, the Chicago Cubs, 2016 World Series champions, who captured the hearts of everyone. Greatest World Series Game 7 we ever saw. So, MF, agree or disagree with that?
I agree. I was also gonna say one other team that I would make an argument for, maybe for code number 6 but I think it's fair enough to do it. Number 6 alone is the Chicago Cubs, no doubt about it. You definitely ventured into the right course, so nothing more to say. Let's go right into the top 5, and let's start it off with, Anthony, it's fitting. You talked about the team that won it in 2016, the team that broke the curse, and we all know that. Well, number 5 to start it off, only just the reigning, defending World Series champions, the Houston Astros. 37 wins, 22 losses, 6-4 in the last 10 games, 2 monster wins over the Boston Red Sox. There's really nothing more to say about it. You basically kicked the doors down on Boston twice already. Laid some lumber on them the first time out. Laid lumber again to them tonight. 7-3 with the final score. You got 2 more with them for this big series. And to think about it, going into this series, we were talking about power ranking implications, and Houston right now, if they keep this up, man, I mean, they're looking like that team that nobody wants to face them. Like, they're playing like the reigning world champions. I mean, that's scary right now. I mean, there might be one other team that I think will actually give that could actually give Houston trouble, and I'm gonna give you a little bit of a heads up, Florio. It's a team from the AL East, and we haven't even talked about them yet. We haven't. And that's the one team I think that could give Houston trouble. Offensively, they definitely give them trouble. But pitching-wise, I think you might have something better than what Houston's got. And trust me, that's a lot to talk about because when you talk about guys like Justin Verlander and all them boys, oh boy. So I think we might be, if everything holds the way it does, and this is your ALCS, this could be an epic ALCS. This could be one of those intriguing ALCSs if this happens. We'll wait and see. But unbelievable what they've been doing lately. Number 5 in my rankings, the reigning and defending world champions, the Houston Astros. Anthony, go.
It's Houston. Houston Astros, number 5, 37-22. Winners of 2 in a row, 6-4 in the last 10. They lead the Mariners by 1.5 in the West. They lead the league in ERA and WHIP, which is very good. They're 3rd in runs scored, and they're 9th in batting average. That's very good. Oh, they're scaring me again. That's all there is to say on that. Since our last rankings, well, this past week, not so good. Well, at first it wasn't so good. They split a 4-game series with the Cleveland Indians 2-2. The downfall, they did lose 2 out of 3 to the New York Yankees at Yankee Stadium. But they've made up for it by so far going 2 for 2 against Bullocks Red Sox at home. 2 more games this weekend. Of course, tomorrow night is the Saturday night baseball game of the week on Fox. And then from one primetime game to another, Sunday night baseball, the legendary Sunday night baseball on ESPN with Matt Vasgersian, Alex Rodriguez, and Jessica Mendoza. You can see that on Sunday night. They'll be off on Monday. Oh boy. It may be only 2 games, but the Seattle Mariners are coming in. Major power ranking and AL West implications in that one. You better believe it. And then after that, a 4-game series in Arlington against the Texas Rangers next weekend. It's the Mist. Ooh, they're going to be on a long road trip starting on Thursday. 4 games in Texas. Then they got to go to Oakland for 3. And then they got to go to Kansas City for 3. So a 10-game road trip. After that huge Seattle series, albeit just 2 games, but those 2 games could mean a whole lot come October. You really think about it. So, yeah, Stros are looking like the Stros again. Altuve, Correa, and company doing what they do best. So, nothing more to say there. Number 5, it is the Stros, your reigning and defending World Series champion Houston Astros. Number 4, this one makes me very happy because it's my team, the New York Yankees. They come in at number 4. Winners of 3 in a row, 6-4 in their last 10 games, 36-17, including a 22-9 mark at the stadium. They're 2nd in runs scored. They're 12th. 2nd in runs scored, 5th in the WHIP, but they got to work on the batting average and the ERA. They're 12th in those departments. And their percentage points ahead of the Red Sox in the AL East. They have a win percentage of 6.79. Boston is 6.72. So that gives the edge to the Yanks. Since our last power rankings, they won. They took 2 out of 3 from the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. This is what really put them over the top. They took 2 out of 3 from the Houston Astros. Major revenge on them from last year's ALCS. They got rained out on Thursday. They played tonight in Baltimore. They beat the Orioles 4-1. They have 2 more against them this weekend. And then, they're in the midst of a very long road trip here. This was supposed to be an 11-game road trip. I mean, so far they got rained out, but they beat the Orioles tonight 4-1. They have 2 more against Baltimore and Baltimore this weekend. And then they have a day-night doubleheader with the Detroit Tigers on Monday at Comerica Park. That was supposed to be their off day, I guess. And then they got to go to Toronto for a 2-game series against the Blue Jays at Skydome on Tuesday and Wednesday. They'll be off on Thursday. And then next week, it's the Subway Series. 3-game series against the New York Mets at Citi Field, including Saturday night baseball game of the week on Fox and Sunday night baseball on ESPN. They won't be back home at the stadium until the 12th of this month when the Washington Nationals come to town. So, big series coming up for the Yanks. I mean, they hit a bit of a rough patch, but they're finally looking like that team again. I mean, they had a rough go in Texas, but then they rebounded with those by winning 2 out of 3 from the Angels, and then taking 2 out of 3 from the Stros. That's never easy. They found a way to do it, and so far, they took care of business against the Orioles tonight. I mean, I'm very impressed with my team right now. I mean, things are looking really good right now. I mean, I'm hoping the sky's the limit. I mean, just like MF said about his Braves earlier, I'm hoping for the best for my team too. I mean, but unlike MF's Braves, I mean, we didn't really have much confidence in MF's Braves, but the Yanks, we had a lot of confidence in, especially that great run they went on last year, pulling to within 1 win of going to the World Series. They came up just short against the Stros, but man alive, I mean, so far we've beaten the Stros 4 out of 6. I mean, that could loom heavily come October, really could. So all we have to do is just figure out Verlander. That's all there is to it. Verlander's the biggest Yankee killer. He's been the biggest Yankee killer since Pedro, for goodness sakes, all those years ago. So when it comes to pitching, that is. But hopefully we'll figure him out someday. But sky's the limit for the Yanks. The Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, Gary Sanchez, Didi Gregorius, they're all having monster years. Gleyber Torres, you got to keep an eye on that young man. He is to the Yanks what Ozzie Albies is to Atlanta. That's all there is to it. That's a dynamo you got to keep an eye on. And I'm hopeful that we'll get a Brave Yankee series down the road. And if we do, I would love to see Albies and Torres. Ooh, who's the bigger dynamo? Only time will tell. They're number 4 for now, but hopefully things will be bigger and better going forward. So hopefully they'll do well in those series coming up. Those are tough ones. Not easy. New York Yankees number 4. MF, what says you?
I agree. Yankees number 4. You basically brought up everything that you wanted to talk about, and we were talking about it. We were talking about the Yankees a week ago and how amazing they've been up to this point. The trade for Giancarlo Stanton has proved to be very influential, a lot of dividends. And it's really affected a lot of the other guys. You talked about Gabby Sanchez, Didi Gregorius, 2 guys I kind of glossed over last week that I probably should not have, and I apologize for that. And of course, Aaron Judge and everything else, and just the great pitching that the Yankees have brought to the table up to this point. So, no, without a doubt, what they've been doing this season has been remarkable, unbelievable. You can't say anything bad about the New York Yankees up to this point. They've been killing it lately. So it's on to number 3. And, okay, this is a tough decision because 2 of them are division leaders and one of them is right there. They're right in the thick of it. But my number 3, I got to do it. I might get a slight disagreement. I don't know. But I have to say, you know what? Because of the fact of this loss, and this is one of those where it's an apples to oranges, because I'm going to say it. It's either Cleveland or it was going to be Milwaukee. Here's the reason why I'm putting Milwaukee here. They lost to the Chicago White Sox. I think that pretty much sums up everything more than anything else. You lose the Milwaukee Brewers loses to the Chicago White Sox 8-3. That is unacceptable in so many levels. I'm sorry. I can't. Yes, I think Milwaukee's been killing it. They are definitely one of the top teams in the National League. And they are right currently, they have the best record in the National League by I believe a game and a half on the Atlanta Braves. But you lost to the White Sox. That if any other time, I probably put Cleveland here at number 3 because what happened to them, they lost to the Minnesota Twins. Normally that would be I would say, okay, that's a bad loss. But I can't find it in my heart to do it because of the fact that at least with Minnesota, okay, their record's a little bad, but the White Sox are horrible. They're terrible. They're like literally at the bottom of the division, and as a matter of fact, they have the second worst record in all of the American League. And you lose to them tonight, 8-3. No. Oh, no, baby. No, I can't do it. Anthony, I might be wrong, but my number 3 is the Milwaukee Brewers. I'm sorry. I can't do it.
It is tough. You're absolutely right. I mean, but at the same time, Milwaukee lost 1 in a row. Cleveland's lost 1 in a row. Washington's lost 2 in a row. And all these teams are 7-3. So you make a very compelling argument, MF. You really, really do.
I didn't think about Washington.
Nope.
No, I actually knocked them out of the rankings because of the 2 losses.
But they're 7-3 in their last 10. So I'm sorry, MF. I'm going to have to disagree with you reluctantly. Washington goes in at number 3. That's a no-brainer here. It's because of the fact they've lost 2 in a row. I mean, I get it. The Milwaukee loss, that's unacceptable. You're absolutely right. But the losses, I mean, that weighs heavily on me. So I have to reluctantly put the Washington Nationals at number 3, 32-24, 3rd in the NL East, 2nd in ERA and WHIP, 16th in runs scored, 19th in batting average. And since our last rankings, they swept the Miami Marlins 3 in a row. They swept the Baltimore Orioles 3 in a row. But what's happened with Washington? They've lost 2 in a row to MF's Braves up in Atlanta and got outscored in those 2 games by a combined 8-2. 2 more games against the Braves this weekend in Atlanta. They're off on Monday. And then they got the Tampa Bay Rays coming in for a 2-game interleague series on Tuesday. They're off on Thursday. And then they got the San Francisco Giants coming in for a 3-game series. So it'll be a 5-game homestand after this Atlanta series. And then that huge 2-game interleague series with the Yankees in New York. That's going to be something fun to watch, I think. So yeah. The pitching is great for Washington, led by Scherzer and all them, but the offense needs work. Like I said, 19th in batting average, 16th in runs scored. That's not going to get it done. The pitching, that will get it done. They're 2nd in ERA and WHIP. Both of those are very good. But really all I can say there. So Washington Nationals coming in at number 3. It's not often I do this, but at number 2, I have a tie at number 2. This is where I have the Milwaukee Brewers and the Cleveland Indians. Initially, I was going to have Cleveland at 1, but they lost tonight. But let's talk about Milwaukee. 36-22, best record in the National League. And they've lost 1. Both the Brewers and Indians have lost 1 in a row. They're both 7-3 in their last 10. Milwaukee, 6th in team ERA, 8th in WHIP, and they're 13th in both batting average and runs scored. So let's look at their stuff since the last rankings. 3-game sweep. Oh, actually, they won 3 out of 4 from the New York Mets at home. In those 3 wins, they outscored the Mets by a combined 29-16. Then they followed that up by winning 2 out of 3 from the St. Louis Cardinals at home. But then, of course, that bad loss to the White Sox tonight. 2 more against the White Sox in Chicago this weekend. They're off on Monday. And then, ironically, they're going to have a 2-game interleague series with the Cleveland Indians in Cleveland starting on Tuesday. Then they're going to be off on Thursday. And then Friday, next weekend, 3-game series with the Philadelphia Phillies in Philadelphia. So they're in the midst of an 8-game road trip. Not a good way to start it off, losing to the Dud White Sox. So they won't be back home until Monday, June 11th for another huge series. The Chicago Cubs come to Milwaukee on the 11th. Big one. So that's all I can say there. So Milwaukee's my first number 2, and my other number 2 is the Cleveland Indians. Initially, they were going to be my number 1. If they had beaten Minnesota, hands down, they would have been number 1. But they did lose to the Minnesota Twins. They're not as bad as the White Sox. They're 23-30. But Minnesota's 3-7 in their last 10 games. Yeah, that's going to weigh heavily. 30-26. They lead the AL Central. That's been a sloppy division, let me tell you. But Detroit's been playing well. They're starting to catch up. 3.5 is the deficit for the Tigers. Cleveland is 5th in runs scored and 5th in whip. They're 9th in batting average, and they're 18th in ERA. So, since our last rankings, they split a 4-game series with the Houston Astros. They went 2-2 against Houston. They swept the Chicago White Sox 3 in a row at home. Outscored them 25-10 in those 3 games. And so far, 1-1 against the Minnesota Twins. They beat the Twins on Thursday, 9-8, but they lost tonight 7-4. Had they won that game tonight, Cleveland would have been number 1 hands down, but that weighs heavily on me. 2 more against the Twins in Minnesota this weekend, off on Monday, and then that 2-game interleague series with Milwaukee on Tuesday, off on Thursday, and then they go up to Detroit for a 3-game series with the Tigers. That's definitely going to have some major central implications, maybe some power ranking implications. You never know. And that's going to be a long road trip, 7-game road trip before they return home on the 15th against Minnesota. So finally, the Indians are looking like that team that, that's done so well the last 2 years. The team that nearly won it all in 2016 and the team that had the best record in the AL at 102-60 last year. They're finally getting their groove going. So took them a while, but they're finally getting it. So nothing more to say here. Co-number 2s. This is the only tie. Milwaukee Brewers, Cleveland Indians. Nothing more to say. MF, it's all yours.
Well, again, it was a mistake on my part, but I'm not gonna make any type of indemnits like I do other times. Sorry. As much as I may feel about it, and I know this is probably going to be a homer decision and probably a little bit of a grudge, and I don't really care. Washington's not on my power rankings this week, regardless of the record. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to pull the trigger on that. Sorry. But I do have Cleveland at number 2. Milwaukee will remain at my number 3. And the number 1 this week, I think me and Anthony are definitely in agreement on this one. The Seattle Mariners. Seattle 34-22, a game and a half out of first place. Yes, that's again another 7-3 team, but they won and they beat the Texas Rangers 6-1. And right now they're actually playing the Tampa Rays, and they're winning on that one as well. The last time we had an update, they were
no. Game's tied. Tampa tied it. It's 3-3 in the 9th.
Oh, okay. So here we go. So It's now 3-3, top of the ninth actually, and I'm actually checking the live update right now. Runners at the corners with 2 outs. So if hopefully Seattle gets out of this, and then maybe walk off, and then maybe a walk off opportunity in the bottom of the ninth, but we'll see. But um, Seattle definitely is worthy of the number one, like we said. The way they've been playing lately has been really good, but all of a sudden it's a dogfight. So we'll see what happens right now, and you know, we'll see. So for me, at the moment, the new number one, the Seattle Mariners. Anthony, it's all yours.
Yes, it is Seattle. They are number one. MF said it. They're on a 1-game winning streak. They're 7-3 in the last 10, 34-22, 1.5 behind Houston in the West. 6th in batting average, 8th in WHIP, 13th in ERA, 14th in runs scored. Since our last rankings, they swept the Minnesota Twins 3 in a row at home last weekend. And then they split a 4-game series with the Texas Rangers 2-2. They're currently tied with the Tampa Bay Rays 3-3 in the ninth. Keep an eye on that. But we're going to be wrapping up in just a little bit, so we're probably not going to find out what happens until after we're done. 2 more games against the Rays this weekend. They're off on Monday, and then, of course, don't forget that huge series with the Houston Astros, albeit 2 games, at Minute Maid Park in Houston on Tuesday and Wednesday. And then starting Thursday, a 4-game series with the Tampa Bay Rays in Tampa at Tropicana Field. And then they'll be back at home on June 11th for the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. So that's really all there is to say on that. Number one for this week, not overwhelmingly, but they are number one nonetheless. Seattle Mariners. So that's it. That'll put the bow on this edition of Strictly Sports. We want to thank you all so very much for tuning in. We're gonna wrap it up with our shout outs. MF wrap it up, and then I'll set up some exciting future content. I do mean exciting, especially next week.
Oh, definitely. First off, I want to say thank you to all the great fans for making the show as amazing as it is. You guys are the best fans in the world. To the super fans, you guys know who you guys are. To the 2184 crew, love you guys. From our friends in the junior high and high school days, we love you guys to death as well. And a special good luck to everybody who's going to be associated with the 50th anniversary of the Special Olympics Summer Games that's going down. There was a big event tonight at the Ryan Center at the campus of URI, and tomorrow and Sunday, competition galore. Medals will be handed out. Good luck to all the Olympians. Like I said, we know a whole bunch of the guys out there. The part of our group nights that we've had, group outings in the past, and a majority of them are Special Olympians. I was fortunate enough to be a part of it for 3 years. It is without a doubt the most awesome feeling in the world. It doesn't matter if you're volunteering, if you're an athlete. It is without a doubt the most special time of the year to see it. It is one of the most thrilling events on the calendar, and they do it big. It gets bigger and better year in and year out. And so much respect and love to all the guys out there. Bring home the gold. Good luck to you guys, and just have a blast out there. So that's it for me. Jose Ham-Pounds, I'm out. Have a good night, everybody. Anthony, take it home.
Well said, MF. Well said. Special shout outs to all of our tremendous fans and viewers out there who continue to make our shows as over as they are. We appreciate it as always. You are the best fans in the world. Enough said. Special shout outs to Dee Dee Woodson, Kevin Woodson and the Woodson family, Matt Ward, Jason Hickson-Bar, Daniel Luttrell from the UK, our first ladies, Kaiser Butler, Megan Silva, and Lexi Calloway, and our other crew members, Tommy Souza, Eric Carrier, Jimmy Alden, Albert Anderson, and Rob Parsons. And, of course, the man himself, Derek Ferreira, puts it all together each and every week. And all of our personalities from 6, 10, and 12, from ESPN, FS1, MLB Network, NHL Network, NFL Network, NBA TV, the whole 9 yards. You know who you are. Chantel McKay from the Golf Channel, Lindsay McCormick, Status Sorrell, our friends from the Road Show, Will Gilbert, Brendan Kirby, Michaela Johnson, the former co-hosts Megan Mooney and Mary Larson. 2 special shout-outs. First and foremost, MF just addressed it a moment ago. I'll throw my 2 cents in. a very special shout out to our partner in crime, our broadcast colleague, the one and only Michael Bullock. Not just him, but everybody who was a part of our Special Olympics, State Summer Games, 50th anniversary, all our special friends from the group outing, Michael Bullock, his girlfriend, Mary Ellen Powers, our good friends, Michael and Brian Keenan, Heather Rostic, Ryan Abedizian, Sarah Brulette, Amy Henrik, Chris Lucier, anybody who is involved with that group. If I missed anybody, I apologize, but they're the ones who, and of course, Michael Bullock's sister, Jessie, and of course, her boyfriend, our good friend, our longtime friend of over 20 years, Kevin Dexter. We want to send them a very special shout out as well. Represent us as only you guys can. I mean, we love you guys. We bless you guys. And on behalf of all of us here at Strictly Sports, we wish you nothing but the absolute best. And we send you our blessings and our much love to every one of you guys. Have a blast, enjoy it, and I'm sure within the next couple of weeks we'll get Michael Bullock's take on all of it when he shares his experiences on a future show. And last but not least, my wonderful church family and friends over at Oasis of Grace Ministries at 464 Silver Spring Street in Providence. There was a service tonight. Unfortunately, I was unable to go. Plans fell through, but when I heard about it, I heard it was a great service as always, and I'll be there on Sunday as always, no doubt about that. 9 a.m. Bible study, after 10 Sunday morning service, Wednesday at 7 Bible study, other things going on. Love them all to death. I wish I could have been there tonight, but it is what it is. And but I'll be there Sunday. I'll be there to see you all on Sunday, and I can't wait to do what we do best on Sundays. And that's all there is to say about that. I'm blessed and grateful to have them all in my life, so they know who they are. So, all right. Monday night, we got Ridiculously Raw right here on the Tone 25. We're gonna review Monday Night Raw and 4 huge matches. You know the matches: Finn Balor against Kevin Owens, Braun Strowman against Bobby Roode, Nia Jax against Natalya, and a tag team battle royale. We'll get into all of that, and I'll also give you my thoughts on 205 Live, including that huge championship match between Cedric Alexander and Buddy Murphy. Wait till you hear what I have to say about that. I saw the match. I was so blown away. I'm not even here. That's all I can say about that. And I think that might be an indication of how high I'm going to rank that fight. Believe
I just saw the highlights, and I actually saw the fight itself. Oh man, yeah,
right.
It deserves it. It deserves it.
Damn right it does.
I'm not. We're gonna leave it at that. But the ranking that I think Anthony's gonna give it, it's deserved.
Amen to that, brother. Amen to that. And I'll also talk about Impact Wrestling. They had a free TV special called Under Pressure, which was just as good. And I can't wait to get into my thoughts about that, because I saw that show the other night. I watched that instead of Game 1 of the Finals, believe it or not. And I'm glad I did. So get into that on Monday. And then Tuesday night, we got the Cerebral Smack Talk over on MF's channel, Braves Fan 95. We'll review SmackDown Live. And if MF has anything in the Mikey's mindset, he'll get into that. And then next Friday night, right here on Strictly Sports, we have a very special edition of Strictly Sports next Friday night. We are going to have our 2018 FIFA World Cup review show. And on top of that, as if that wasn't big enough, our Imperial Grand Poobah himself, Derek Ferreira, is going to be joining us for that show as well. So we'll run down all the groups, including the group of death, and we'll see who MF and Derek like to win it all. Of course, I'm not a big soccer guy. I'll just be the moderator. I'll just, do my thing. And not sure if Bullock's going to be a part of this, because I know Bullock's not really a big soccer guy either. But MF and Derek are the two greatest soccer minds that I know. So I can't wait to hear what they both have to say about next week's show. So there you go. So until Monday night for Ridiculously Raw, it's Anthony Florio here for good old MF Michael Fletcher. And in spirit, Michael Bullock, Dee Dee Woodson, and Derek Ferreira. You know the routine, everybody. Thumbs up. Talk to you later. Yeah. Throw it up Fortune 4 style. Bye for now, my friends. God bless. Be good to each other. Have a blessed weekend. And until Monday night for Ridiculously Raw, you've been watching Strictly Sports right here on the Total 25 on YouTube.com. For everybody who's been a part of this one, for now, Anthony Florio. So long. Bye, everybody. Bye.